The first lecture was titled that daiva is greater, daiva is not just destiny. So I did not go into that. What is the difference between daiva and destiny? So yeah, I did not go into it because it's slightly technical. The word destiny in English basically refers to the idea that there are things which are beyond our control and they're just going to happen to us. But when the Bhagavatam uses and the Bhakti tradition uses the word daiva, it refers not so much to some unknown, unpredictable, arbitrary force which is going to bring some suffering upon us or bring something happening upon us. We understand that daiva is something we ourselves create. That our daiva is the aggregate of our own past karma's reactions which are coming upon us according to a particular plan. So daiva is a much more philosophically precise concept than the vagueness that is associated with the word of destiny. So in that sense, daiva is more than destiny. It's not just some yes, there is some factors beyond our control which do shape our life, but those factors are not malevolent, those factors are not unknown, those factors are something which we only have contributed and created. Okay? Yes. Who has a question? Yes. Okay, you can speak, I'll repeat the question. Yeah.
In the first lecture you said that our genes, they shape our behavior but they don't determine our behavior. But Prabhuji, if our genes, they are constantly prompting us what to do and what not to do, then how is it that they don't determine our behavior?
Okay.
And so is the thing with the psychic, you said it shapes our behavior but it doesn't determine our behavior. But if our conditioning is done in a particular way, we are programmed in a particular way, how is it that the behavior is not determined by that?
Yeah. So if we are conditioned in a particular way, either by our upbringing or by our genes, then they prompt us to act in a particular way. So how do they only shape our behavior and not determine our behavior? Yeah. Our conditioning, from whatever source it comes before us, it dangles certain courses of action which seem to be like natural responses for us. At the same time, what seems natural is not always essential or desirable. So for example, say in the past there have been a lot of discrimination. Say for example, people who were whites in America, they used to look at people who were African Americans, these are low class people. Or say because of the theory of social Darwinism was the idea that the Darwinian survival of the fittest doctrine was applied to different races. And social Darwinism was the idea that some races are good and some races are bad. And Hitler took that idea and he said the Aryans, whom we consider the Germans, he said they are the best race and the Jews are the worst race. So now, with this idea, he said that actually, because the Jews are the worst race, so the Jews are going to be annihilated by nature. Because only the fit are going to survive, the unfit are going to die. And he said, his idea was that when we are killing the Jews, we are in the gas chambers, we are helping nature accelerate its course of progress. So that was his idea. And actually he brainwashed, practically speaking, the whole nation at that time. So now can we say, now during the Nuremberg trials, at that time, many of the Nuremberg trials were the trials when many of the generals of Nazi Germany, they were tried. So many of the generals at that time said that we were simply following orders. That's what our bosses told us to do, and that's why we arrested and we killed the Jews. So the point is that we all have a basic sense of conscience. We all have our intelligence, and just because in the name of following orders of some authority, we cannot act in barbaric or brutal ways. So the point here is that certain circumstances, so for them at that time, it may well seem natural. Okay, somebody is a Jew, tell about them, get them arrested and kill them. But then they have their conscience and they should have chosen not to act that way. So just as we can easily understand that even if there is an atmosphere of hatred against a particular community, we are not bound to hate that community. We have a choice to act more objectively. So just as there is a social environment which may push us towards certain perceptions, but it doesn't force us to act according to those perceptions. Just as what social environment does, similarly our mental environment also. Now we may have a perception of some people to be like this, or some problems to be like this, or whatever, but we are different from our mind, and our mind may push us to act in particular ways, but we can counter push. So for example, say if somebody is studying for an exam, and if the exam is 6 months away and they say, oh, today is a cricket match, maybe I'll just go and watch the cricket match. And you say yes. If the exam is 6 months away, you say, okay, let me watch the cricket match. But if the exam is tomorrow, the same impulse is coming, let me watch the cricket match. But if somebody, when the exam is tomorrow and they watch the cricket match, the others will chastise them. You could have watched the cricket match later, you shouldn't watch, you should study now. And they will themselves agree. So the point is that we ourselves see there are situations when impulses come, and we have the capacity to say no to the impulses. So by the way we have acted, the extent to which we can say no or say yes, that may vary. So for example, say if we are short-tempered, then when somebody irritates us, we tend to become angry. So now what may happen is that we may not, it will be, if somebody irritates us, it may be difficult for us to avoid the emotion of anger. But we can avoid expressing that anger immediately. So, for example, what I do is when somebody acts in a way that really makes me wild, so I cannot just wish away the anger. The anger is there. But if I express it, I know I will speak in ways that will hurt that person unnecessarily, and I will not be able to make the proper points which I want to make. On the other hand, if I don't speak it also, then I am repressing myself. And actually I am not really improving the situation also, because they may keep repeating that situation. So sometimes what I do is I just write a mail expressing my full anger. But then I make a rule, I will not send that mail. So for at least 24 hours, I just keep it there as it is. And then after 24 hours, then I read the mail, hey, this is too heavy, I shouldn't have spoken like this. And then I say, yeah, this is a reasonable point, but maybe I can rephrase this a little bit. So sometimes I may not send the mail at all. Sometimes I may edit the mail a lot and send some part of it and keep the other part as it is. Or sometimes on very few occasions, particularly never I would say I send the mail as it is. Because, so that time, I need to express myself. But others don't need to hear my expression. So, based on our conditioning, whichever the conditioning may be, we have to find out some way we cannot choke the emotion that is there. But just because we can't choke the emotion doesn't mean that we have to, in an unregulated way, express it. So to find some way in which, when a particular course of action seems to be the natural course of action for us, at that time, we may not be able to say no to it. And trying to say no to it may appear like repression. But instead of no, we can have a pause button. Just pause. Okay, I feel like doing this, but not immediately. So journaling, writing a letter like this is basically journaling. In a journal, we express our emotions and we give vent to them, and then once we get those thoughts and emotions outside us, then that creates a certain level of objectivity. Because once they are inside, as long as they are inside us, they are just creating congestion inside. They are not allowing us to think in any new way. The mind is going along the same old tired tracks again and again and again. But once we get it out, there is a certain release that's created. And afterwards, when we read it after some time, there is some objectivity. So how exactly, when we are prompted to act in particular ways, how we can check that we will have to use our own creativity to find out how to do that. But there is what our conditioning does is, it presents us certain options. But just to give an example, just if there's a multiple choice paper. In the multiple choice exam, we don't think necessarily that the first choice is going to be the right choice. Isn't it? Yes, sometimes the first choice will be the right choice, but the rightness of the choice, the rightness of the option is not determined by its position. It is determined by its content. So if we are just in a two-tiering hurry, just stick A for all of them. We may get a F because of that. So, like that, by our conditionings, the first option that comes, we tend to act on that first option itself. But by creating some kind of pause button for ourselves, we can make sure, okay, the first option has come, but the first option may not necessarily be the best option. So our conditionings present the first option as a very natural or alluring option for us. But by finding out how we can create a pause button for ourselves, we can avoid acting on that option, and then eventually we can choose how to act. So the mind, which is the way through which most of our conditionings come upon us, the mind can impel, it can't compel. Impel means to push, whereas compel means to force. So when the mind pushes, we can resist, we can counter push. So it doesn't compel us, it doesn't take away our free will. And the more we choose to counter push, the greater our free will becomes more and more active. And then we can make healthier choices. Does it answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Mataji. Okay. Can any food or any medicine change our destiny? See here, again, what we mean by destiny is important to understand. See, it's if we consider destiny as something which is absolutely fixed and unchangeable, destiny is not necessarily like that. There is certain stockpile of karmic reaction that we are meant to get, and those are going to come upon us. But the food, the medicine that we take, taking that is also a part of our duty. We have been given a particular body, and taking care of the body is my responsibility. Suppose it's a very cold night, and on a cold night I take 6 ice creams, and then the next morning when I wake up, I scream. And then I start feeling, and somebody says, what happened? It's my destiny. Well, it's not your destiny. It's not your destiny. It's just stupidity actually. It's my stupidity. Why did I have to eat 6 ice creams? So if we don't eat properly, if we don't take proper medicines, then we are actually acting in irresponsible ways, and they will have consequences. So it's not that everything that happens to us is only because of past karma. Now our present choices also affect our present. So if I am overeating now, or if I am taking cold food on a cold night, then the reaction will come immediately. So our present choices will also bring consequences, and by making the present choices wisely, we can avoid unnecessary adverse consequences. That's the first point. So by eating and taking medicines properly, we can avoid aggravating our destiny. Beyond that, just as there is preparation. So when we talk about destiny, we could talk about destiny more in terms of like a weather forecast, as I mentioned in the first class. The destiny tells us basically what kind of an environment we are going to get in our life. Now, how we prepare for that environment is up to us. So for example, if I understand that I have a sickly body, I need to regulate my diet. And then I act to regulate my diet properly. And that itself will also help me to avoid unnecessary complications. But if whatever food we have, if we offer it to take Krishna and take Krishna Prasad, that also helps us to minimize the reactions to karma. But with respect to our destiny, the important point is, rather than thinking in terms of something, it's not like not a matter of skill or trickery. If there's some magic formula which I do, then I'll escape my destiny. No, there is one culinary way of rephrasing the law of karma is, normally we say law of karma is, whatever action we do, that reaction we are going to get. So if you want to phrase this in kitchen terms, what you cook, you will have to eat. जो पकाया है वो पचाना पड़ेगा. So what we have done, we will get the reactions for that. So we cannot be able to escape the reactions. But what happens by the practice of bhakti is that those reactions don't trouble us so much. So for example, if I'm going to get some sickness, if I am very much caught in bodily consciousness, then when the sickness comes, I feel it is the end of the world for me. But if I understand that actually I'm a spiritual being and I can spiritually connect with Krishna whatever my situation is, then even if I face difficulties, even if I face some sickness, I can remember Krishna and I can minimize the misery that comes. So there is an external troubling stimuli that is there, and there is an internal trouble that I experience. So the external troubling stimuli may come, whatever happens, but the internal trouble that we experience, that can be minimized if we take shelter of Krishna. So seeing our body as a vehicle given by Krishna to us, and taking food, taking medicines properly to take care of this body, not just in a mood of avoiding some future complications, but in the mood of service to Krishna, in the mood of taking care of the instrument that Krishna has given to us. That is the best way we can prepare ourselves for whatever destiny will give us in future. Does that answer your question?